All right. So before we start, I'd like to give you a little story. So this guy has this very, very pounding headaches. And for people who work with their brain would understand what I'm talking about. Very pounding headache. So he goes to his doctor and says, hey, this is what is wrong with me every time, you know. And the doctor keeps diagnosing him, and then he keeps coming back. Hey, the headaches are persisting. What's going on? And the guy said, okay, hey, I'm going to be prescribing more heavy pain relievers for you. So each time he goes back, headaches are still there, more pain relievers and all. So he decided to consult another different doctor, and the doctor began to ask him questions his own doctor was not asking him. And the questions were like, hey, what happens anytime you get these headaches? And the guy was like, hey, I read a whole lot and study. So anytime I do that, that's when these headaches come. And then the doctor discovered it's not about the headaches, it's his eyes. So he prescribed reading glasses for him and the headache stopped. So put that at the back of your burner, right? Headaches, eyes. Headache is the problem. Is headache the problem or the eye? Which one? Yeah, but he has headaches. All right. Now, the truth is, most times when we think we know what a problem is, we're actually describing the lack of a solution other than the problem. It's a lack of the solution that we think is the problem most times. We want to define what a good and a bad problem is so that we can establish whether we know or understand what problems are actually. Because when you look at innovation, when you look at ideas, they're meant to solve what? So, what if we're actually solving solutions instead of problems? Because in our minds, we would think that, hey, this is a problem, but it's rather the lack of solution that we're thinking is a problem, right? A good problem is one that clearly describes a real condition that matters to people and can be examined in ways that reveal its root causes, right? What is the main point you think we should be carried from a good one thing you think stands out? From what is written here, what is that one word that stands out?
Real condition.
Real condition. Real condition. We have real condition. What else?
Can be examined.
It can be examined. Real condition can be examined. Yes, there's someone back.
It defines as a root cause.
Root cause. So when you put these words together, I believe you can be able to have what a real solution is. Then what's a bad problem? So there are very practical words there. How many people have seen one of them is what? It what? Sorry? Disguise solution, and then there's one word I'm looking for. It assumes. It assumes. So we understand a little bit, even if it's what a bad and a good problem is, right? Okay. So let's construct a problem. What is a problem? A problem can be, or is, or should, or would be that ABC does not effectively handle corruption. Let's say that's the problem, right? So now, what does it matter? There are three things there, and I'm going to read them out and we decide what matters. What does it matter? Why? Why does it matter that? Why does a problem have to matter? Taking this particular one, corruption, as a case study. First one is because we still have a lot of corruption in government, which we can show in various indicators, or because we lose money from the corruption, which we can estimate using basic financial reporting data, or because the lost money leads to reduced services, which we can show in various sectors, including education, healthcare, and water. If you are to choose why the problem matters, which would you take? Why? Which would you do? Why does this problem matter? If you are to frame a reason why this problem should matter, which would you say within these three? The third one. Why? So now, yes, please.
impact on our lives.
Do you remember the first creating? Do you remember that? There are words there that connects to this, right? So our choosing the reason why a problem is important is even is more important than even the problem. Why does it matter? Why does the problem matter? So to whom does it matter? Who needs to care? Now that we've established why it matters, to whom does it matter? Who needs to care about it? Why do we get them to give it more attention? This is where we come in all. Why does our innovation, our ideas need to get more attention? How do we create visibility for this? How do we create stories around what we think matters the most? And then what will the problem look like when it's solved? After it's solved, what next? After we get the cold room, what next? So, deconstructing the problem, an example of the 5 whys. So let's take the middle cost for want of time, just this. Procurement cost is inflated. So now the problem is, why is money being lost in service delivery? Why? That's our problem. So these are different costs now. 1, 2, 3, but just choosing the middle one, we can choose any one. So procurement costs are inflated, leading to fund leakages. Why does it happen? Why does it happen? These are 3 different thoughts about why it happens. The first one, procurement processes are often half implemented, or procurement processes are often rushed, or decisions to procure goods are delayed and delayed again every year, or budget decisions, including purchases decisions, are delayed. Which would you choose as the reason why this very particular problem happens? Just to prick up our minds, we don't have to answer. You now understand that you choosing why why the problem is happening is also still important to your own ideas as well. Let's get back to the reason why we're doing this. What is this? Another reason to know. Everybody describes what they know differently. Some people are saying cartoon, some people say arts, some people say drawing. But what is this actually? You see? So we all have different, is a metaphor. This can all be correct. It can even be nothing, all depending on the way we view things, perceptions, right? Now, I just want to talk about just this drawing. All of them, we can talk about them and we know. That drawing is depicting something very important. It was something that one African from, I can't remember the name of the country, drew. And it shows Africans sitting on a table making decisions without their heads, right? Now, it's deeper than what we think Africa has as a problem. Why we discuss the problem. We do not discuss the problem with our heads. Now, the question is, who defines or who tells us the definition of what our problem is? For people who work in the development industry, development world, they will tell you that one of the reasons why interventions do not matter that much or are not sustained is the fact that the donor decides what the problem is. In another way, in politics, the party decides what the problem is. In their manifesto, they decide to you, okay, this is what we want to solve. So when you look at assessment, needs assessment is also done by what? Community influencers, community stakeholders. And arts has been able to do way different, way far away from what the narrative has been done. Arts has been able to bring out, aside from data, the emotional aspects of what the problems are. Talking about fear, talking about distress, you could see it in the arts. So we want to define what art is. Edda Daggers defines art is not what you see, but what you make others see. This American writer, Hubbard, art is a thing. Art is a thing. So art is not a thing, it is a way. My guy, Pablo Picasso, he said art is a lie that enables us realize the truth. And then the American James Turrell, Ours is a completed pass. You don't just throw it away. You just don't throw it out into the world. Someone has to catch it. And then Paglen said that ultimately art is trying to see things that others do not see. So basically, we're going to be looking at some of these arts, and you tell me if you understand them, and then we're done. Now, this particular art was done by Samba. Samba is a Democratic Republic citizen from DRC. Samba did this to depict something, and I'm sure all of us are looking at it, thinking about what this depiction is. Can you see solutions here? Can you see problems from looking at the drawings? Can we see? Basically, the first one there just depicting the plight of child soldiers in the DRC and how innocents have been eroded. If you look at the picture, a whole lot, he's surrendering. I don't want to do this, but there's a gun. Once you come for peace, he shoots you. And this other one just depicts the fight and the plight for natural resources, as well as making money and driving human beings to this point. Then this is an art. The first one here is an art by, they call them the Gorilla Girls, and they do arts to depict women, that's sexism and as well as racism. And then the other one there is a very, very serious art. If you look at it, there's a very troublesome, emotions going here. Now, this drawing was drawn in 1967. 1967 1964 to 1974 was a time that the Mozambiques wanted freedom from Portugal. So this drawing just depicts the entire process, the entire pain, the war, the struggle for independence for them. So when you look at it, there are lots of things in this drawing. Let's go. And this drawing is also very, very clear as we can see it. This is a drawing of the Mother Mary, re-imaging Mother Mary with a child holding it up. Lots of people say that this was a critique for the Israeli-Hamas war and all, just depicting the very, you look at how depressed the child is and the mother, and how the plight of women that suffer, civilians that suffer in conflict zones. And the other one, you see a judge beating a protester. This also depicts the fact that, the judiciary has been used over and over to gag the interest of people in governance generally. This is Picasso. This drawing is seen as Picasso's most, controversial technical drawing. So this is the immigrant mother during the Great Depression, 1936, just depicting the plight of immigrants in the US. This picture was snapped in 1936 during the Great Depression. And this is our very own Mahmoud. How many of you know Mahmoud? Mahmoud Bulama. He has been locked up plenty times by Nigerian government because of his cartoons, right? Now, when you look at this, I don't need to explain to you any other detail. You know what is happening here. Now, just a bit, let me explain this. This drawing is done by a South African cartoonist. It's called Zapiro. Zapiro is actually Jonathan Zahiro, but then they call him Zapito. Now, in this very one, he's depicting the end of tyranny and how people hold on to power at the end of the day becomes nothing. You look at a lady here saying whatever, and then Robert Mugabe, 1924 to 2019, and look at all his works, and this is him here, so depicting the fact that, tyranny does not do anything. And this very one is South Africa. This is Jacob Zuma with his own people. Now, you may wonder why Jacob Zuma is having, the tap head. In this drawing was in 2008. In 2006, he said that after sleeping with an HIV patient, he went to go and bath, and then the shower washed out the HIV. So that's why he's having that. That's why he's having that. Now, this is the lady justice here, and then these guys are prepping her up for rape from him, depicting how Jacob Zuma and the entire institution are raping the the judiciary system. So all of these guys are not just anybody that is there. The first guy you see, how many of you know Julius Malema? Yeah, that's Julius Malema there. And then at that time, he was the president of the youth league, the ANC youth league. And then the other one is my guy, Samson. Samson was the secretary of the ANC and currently the minister of petroleum resources, natural resources and petroleum in South Africa. The other guy there is Blade. Blade is currently the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation. And then he was the president of the South African Communist Party. And then this other guy is Viva, my guy Viva. He's an internet guy. And then he was, the executive secretary of the Council of South African Trade Union. All of these guys are people with power and influence, and they're the ones putting the justice down to help this guy. Now, this picture speaks a whole lot, right? That is what art does. We know this one, Kwame. We know these drawings. So whether it is cartoon, whether it's sculptures, whether it's movies from Timbuktu, you know Timbuktu, it was shot in 2004, released in 2012, released 2018, and then it depicts the effects of an Islamic Sharia governed society and how that affects the entirety of the human race. And then you look at the Sarafina, we all know the story of Sarafina students protesting against the apartheid regime in South Africa. And then Half of a Yellow Sun, which a lot of people or a lot of Nigerians would also still argue there is a one-sided story based off on the Nigerian Civil War. Then you have the October 1, which my very good guy there, Sadiq Daba. How many of you know he's a Jos guy? Yeah, so Sadiq Daba did a very beautiful experience to showcase the Nigerian experience when it comes to independence. Yeah, let's move on. So whether it is drawing, cartoons, whether it is literature, poetry, whatever, we all know Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. Uh, you know, Wole Soyinka's uh, books and all of that, we all know that they cover and they give us a perception of something that data does not carry. So the question is, what is your art depicting? What is your art doing? What solution is your art doing? Do you really understand what the solutions are? So we still go back to that same story I said I gave earlier. The solution most times is what we are looking for, but then we have found a problem that does not have solution sometimes, and a solution that does not have a problem. Most times we create solutions in place of problems, and we create problems in places of solutions. And what arts has been able to do is to create a solution that is deeper than statistics, deeper than data. Arts have been able to give us emotional statistics into what the problems are, and it has defined way from beginning what our entire problem is. Are we good? Any question?